dedicated to empowering you with information
to make positive choices
and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to The Health View.
Welcome to The Health View. I'm Yvonne Dunetz, and today we're going to be talking about the importance of animals in supporting our health and well-being. And with me today, I'm very privileged to have staff members from the Greater Nashua Humane Society, and Laurie Dufault, who is the Director of Marketing and Development, correct?
Yes.
Is going to just share a little bit about what goes on.
Sure, thank you. So the Humane Society for Greater Nashua is really a humane care center. We like to talk that we take care of people as well as animals. No animal ever walks through our doors on its own. There's always a person associated with that pet. So a lot of people know us for adoption, and that's certainly something wonderful to know us for, these just like all these little cuties here with us. But we also offer wellness clinics. We're a place where people can surrender a lost pet or surrender their own pet, say they've had a loss of job or they've had a family member that's passed away and nobody else can take care of that animal. So like I said, there's a lot of great things happening in our organization.
Great. Charlie, you've had a variety of different things that you've done for the organization, but right now you're involved with adoption, correct? As an adoption volunteer?
I'm a volunteer, and I work in the dog area, and I do animal care and adoption counseling. And
could you introduce these fellow companions that you have with you today?
This is Emma, and Emma is a lab mix. She's 3 months old.
Thank you.
And Laurie is holding Emery, who is Emma's sister. She's also 3 months old. Yeah. And Becky here has Warren, and Warren is the old guy. He's 4 months old. And they all came in from out of state. They came on a transport from states where there's just an overpopulation of animals, and they can't take care of all of them. So here in New Hampshire, we've had such success with spaying and neutering that we have a lot more people looking for animals than we have dogs and puppies that are available. And
you're protecting them from being killed, correct?
There's a likelihood that these or the dogs that take their place when there's a space available would have been put down if we didn't take them.
And are they always puppies, or are they all different ages?
No, they're all different ages. A typical transport would have about half puppies and half adults. Yeah.
And from your perspective, is there a story you can share with us on the important connection from the human connection to the dog connection, on how that special relationships helps with both the health and well-being of both the pup and the owner?
When we have a dog go home, whether it's a puppy that gets adopted in just a couple days, so you've only known them a couple days, or whether it's a more difficult to adopt dog that maybe you've known for months, and before the person that was just right for them came in and adopted them. You're always happy to see the dog go home and start a new life, but you're not always aware of what the changes are going to occur in the humans that because they're adopting. And I can tell you about my favorite adoption, which happened a few years ago. We got a call from a woman who was the director of a senior residence, and she told us about a man, I'll call him Bob, who had lost all his friends, and he had decided he was just shut down. He would just sit in his room. He didn't want to make friends with any of the other residents when she'd ask him. She would go in and talk with him, and he'd spend his day in his chair in his room, just kind of staring off into space. She said when she talked with him, the only time that he seemed to be interested at all in the conversation was when he was talking about the dogs that he'd owned during his life. So she told him, Bob, you need a dog. And she called us up, and she asked if we had a dog that would be appropriate for Bob. And we did. We had a little Pomeranian mix named Wanda. So in a couple days, she drove up with Bob and to meet Wanda. And they came in the dog room, and I was telling them about Wanda. But really, it was the director who was talking to me. Bob was standing behind her. He had just kind of a blank look on his face. He didn't look interested at all. he just kind of shut down. So I finally said, why don't we take Wanda out of the kennel, and you can take Wanda for a walk through the woods. Wanda was a little Pomeranian. She was full grown, but she was about the same size as this puppy, this little dog. She was very easy to care for. She loved everybody. Very beautiful dog too. So we went outside, and I handed the leash to Bob and showed him where the beginning of the walking trail was. We have a walking trail through the woods behind the building. He started off with Wanda, and then he looked back at where the director and I were standing, and he said to the director, "Aren't you coming?" And she said, "No, Bob, this is for you and Wanda to get to know each other. I'm not coming. It's just the two of you." He looked a little disturbed at that, but he walked off. And a few minutes later, we saw him come out of the other end of the path, coming out of the woods. And he started up the hill towards where the director and I were standing at the corner of the building. But he was still, his face was just blank. You couldn't read him at all. And he was looking down at the ground, at the dog. Wanda was having a great time. She was prancing right along with him. She loved it. When he got to us, he didn't say anything. He just stood there. And eventually the director said to him, "So, Bob, what do you think?" And it was like she just flipped a switch. He looked up, he looked at the both of us right in our eye, and he got the biggest smile I've ever seen on anybody. Oh. And he just said one sentence. He said, "She's the one." Oh. And so we adopted Wanda to Bob, and about, I'd say 2 weeks later, the director of the residence called us up to let us know how they were doing, and she said they were doing great. That Bob would take Wanda out for walks every day, and because she was such a cute pup, everybody wanted to meet her. And so they would come over and ask Bob about the dog, and he would tell everybody about his dog. And she said he has made so many friends now that he has a dog, and he's doing great. She said he's not a recluse anymore. He comes out and meets friends, and he's getting around great.
So it was a win-win for both of them.
It was. We always see the dogs go home, and we think, that's great, that dog's starting a new life. Yeah. But in this case, I think the bigger change was Bob. That
Absolutely.
was a bigger change in his life than even in the dogs.
Without a doubt. Well, because there's such an unconditional love in that relationship and that ability to have that, it's very special. And Becky, you were saying that you also get dogs, and we'll be getting some more in because of the hurricane.
Yes. This time in Katrina, the organizations, and it's not their fault in an emergency situation, but their first attack in Katrina was move the animals. So there was a lot of pets that were separated from their families and up north and unable to be reunited. So this time, the organizations, ASPCA, HSUS, the large organizations that help in these natural disasters, came in and kept the animals safe, but kept them local. So people were able, once they got out of the flooded areas and things like that, to be reunited with their pets. So we will still be this summer, we will have, most of our transports will be coming from those areas. So we will be taking the true, strays from the hurricanes.
That's
so
wonderful.
We're still going to help out because these, they did a great job in organizing and warehousing these guys and giving them a place to live and giving an opportunity for reuniting.
And you have adoption for not only dogs but cats also, correct?
Yes, we do. We do cats, and we also do small animals and reptiles sometimes when they appear.
And how do you connect people with one another? If someone is interested in adopting and having a new family member, what would they do?
They will come into the shelter, fill out an application, discuss with an adoption counselor what their lifestyle's like, what they're looking for in an animal, what their likes and dislikes are, time frame they'll be home, things like that. So we really try to join the personalities together and the needs together. As Charlie said, Wanda was an older Pomeranian going with an older gentleman, and they were a great pair. Like, you wouldn't put like a husky, with an elderly person that couldn't handle. So we really, talk to the people, and I find that when you start talking to people, they're very open and telling you what their wants and needs and all that is.
Now, you mentioned before that sometimes somebody their change of health status be such that they can't keep their loving pets. And do they come to you to look for someone to be able to adopt that pet so that they know and have peace of mind that the pet is okay?
Yes, they do. They make an appointment to come in and talk with one of the staff members. If they think that the animal is not a dangerous animal and is one that could be adopted, then we'll take the animal in. And we have a couple of rooms that are used as exam rooms when we do veterinary clinics, but when we're not doing clinics, we use those as interview rooms for people who have come in to surrender their animals so that they're not, people aren't disturbing them and they have some privacy because it's a tough decision for people.
Of course it is.
They will they'll leave the animal with us, and we usually wait a couple days to let the animal settle in. And then we'll do a behavior evaluation on the animal, and then have our veterinary staff member, Dr. Karen, check them over, make sure that they're medically sound, and then we put them up for adoption. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Anything that people should know about their role that they play in helping an adopted pet to be at ease and to adjust well?
Sure. We do give out handouts and advice, and we're always there via phone, email for support for transitioning, because there definitely is a transition. The biggest thing people have to remember is you don't know them and they don't know you.
Exactly.
And we're asking dogs to, or all animals really, to live in our environment.
Yes.
So boundaries and patience and training is really important to help make that bond. The human-animal bond is really important. Because Tufts University did studies 3 years ago, and they put a team of dogs in an MRI. And they found that when they look in their owner's eyes, they have the same oxytocin that a mother and a child would, or a parent and a child. So sometimes I really like to stress how important the bond is between you and your dog. We forget because sometimes we say, oh, it's just a dog, but it's more than a dog, and they feel the exact same way about us. So, but really playing with them and giving patience and let them explore and things like that is very important. Show it, like with cats, you want to show them where the litter box is. You want to really help integrate them into a home.
And from a health and well-being point of view, you're looking that the home is safe for them and that the person who will become their new family, mother or father or whatever,
Right.
really takes excellent care of them.
Right.
And so what are your expectations of the people who adopt related to the health and well-being of the animal?
Well, we want to, when we counsel, we try and get a feeling for what the home is like and what the family is like. We usually, for dogs anyway, we ask that all family members come in and meet the dog so that we know that it's going to work out. And we really, we know a little about the dog's personality, so we want to make sure that the home is one that is a good fit. That an active dog goes to a home that's going to burn off some energy from him every day, and that a couch potato goes to a quiet home and is allowed to just sleep on the couch wherever he wants.
You're matchmaking.
Yeah,
Yes.
we are, yeah. And it's the same with cats. People form a really strong bond with cats. We had a couple of years ago, we had a woman and her husband come in to look for a cat because the husband was going through chemotherapy at the time. And he was going to be okay, but the wife thought that if he had a cat that could get his mind off of his problems, that it would help him. And so they did find a cat that was appropriate. They took him home, and a little while later, she emailed us with some pictures and all, and she said it's working out perfectly, just the way she had hoped. That the cat comes and sits on his lap, and he gets to be the companion for her husband, and gives her husband something to think about and to care about other than just his troubles at the moment.
Wonderful.
So it
Very
works
therapeutic
out great for dogs
for
and
everyone.
cats. Yeah.
Very therapeutic. That's wonderful.
And you know, Yvonne, I was just going to say that while we have these adorable puppies here, you know, we run all ages at the shelter. We just adopted out a kitty last week, Ned, who was 15 years old. And at the end, towards the end of his life, but he can have a good life for whatever long is left. So it's not just about for us of just taking care of the puppies and the kittens. You know, we certainly run all ages. I mean, we've had dogs in their teens as well, some little dogs. We really do take care of all ages and serve same in families too, old and young.
And so,
There's some amazing families that just step up and will offer to take animals that have problems. We had a husky, Kaya, who I think Kaya was only about 3 years old, so it was pretty young.
She was actually one.
She
Believe it or not.
she
was one,
She was 1 year old at the time, but she had cancer, and vet said that it had just spread all through here. She was not in pain, and she had a little time left, but there wasn't anything anybody could do to reverse that. And so we put the dog up for a hospice adoption, looking for a family that understood that the dog was not going to live a long time, but that they wanted to provide a hospice situation and give the dog the best life it could for the time it had remaining.
That's
and
wonderful.
We found such a family, and they were amazing. They kept showing us pictures of them taking the husky on hikes and playing with them. And she had she had the best. She lasted about a year, I think, and she had the best year. And
Is that beautiful? What a beautiful
just
story.
Because that family was just so open-hearted that they would take the dog on.
And
It's
gave
a
her
hard
as
thing to
much
do,
love
but
as
they did it.
possible and all the experiences that they could to give her the best life.
Yeah.
The family has stayed on board with us, and they cannot wait, which is, you know, they're excited to help for the next one that comes into the hospice program for a dog. So they're really wonderful people.
So is the hospice program a new program, or is this something that's ongoing?
Well, I'd say that it's ongoing. It's really just as, you know, we are blessed to have a full-time vet on our staff.
Yes.
And that was new 5 years ago, I believe, that we had started with a full-time vet. And so we have really been able to take care of, with having a full-time vet, take care of animals in a lot of different stages of life. So just earlier this week, we adopted out a diabetic cat. That cat probably would not have been able to have stayed with us 10 years ago just because we didn't have the veterinary team to be able to meet that cat's needs to keep them healthy and well until that adoption. Because Princess was with us a good 3 months, I believe, before her adoption. So having a full-time vet on our staff has made a real difference so that we're able to care for those animals that are towards the end of life or have more complicated medical issues. It's expensive, and that's why we're always still trying to raise money.
Right.
But we really can make a difference in some of these animals' lives.
So you make a difference in their lives, and yet you've also provided animals to help people from the hospice perspective in visiting and...
Well, we've had some of our animals have gone on to become pet therapy pets, but the shelter animals, while they're at the shelter, are not visiting residents in nursing facilities.
But you know, from that perspective, that therapeutic dogs really make a huge difference to people's lives.
Big difference, a very big
They do.
difference.
A number of years ago, I did some pet therapy with a friend of mine, Susan, who volunteers.
Yes.
And she had a dog that was trained as a therapy dog, and we would go to nursing homes and generally meet in a common room, and the nurses would bring down the residents that they thought would enjoy it, and they'd sit. We'd bring the dogs round, and invariably they'd tell you stories about their animals when when they were younger and had animals. And sometimes when you made the second round around the circle, you'd hear the same story over again, but that's okay. They were enjoying it. We have a volunteer now, Kelly, who comes in and helps with animal care, and when she's done with that, she has a therapy dog at home, a lab, and she goes home, straight home from the shelter, and picks up her dog and goes to a couple nursing homes with her dog.
Wonderful.
So it's a great program, pet therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's a number of our dogs that have been adopted that have gone on to be therapy dogs.
That's great. So if people wanted to know more about how they could adopt or become a partner with a pet or develop a relationship or at least go through the adoption process, how might they do that?
Really, there's a lot of information on our website.
And that is?
And that is hsfn.org. There's a lot of information there, but there's still, as much as we can direct people to website and Facebook, our counselors, our volunteers are so knowledgeable, and that human interaction and really trying to find out what you want for your home and what's going to fit. I got to say, there's so many people I say, come in and talk to our counselors, because you'll be very pleased and you'll be very, you'll learn a lot. I learn a ton from my colleagues every day, no doubt about it.
What happy pups.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have a wonderful program the second Sunday of every month called Reading to Rescues, where we welcome the kids of Nashua, or anywhere really, to come in and read to the rescue animals. So it gives them the opportunity to read to these animals who won't judge them and practice their reading, and it gives social interaction to the animals of the shelter as well.
Do you?
So
that's a
wonderful
beautiful
program.
thing to do. Do you also ever do things where you invite elders in to come
We
visit
do.
the animals?
Absolutely.
A couple of groups. We have a couple of assisted living groups that usually come and do a visit with us.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's a little challenging just in the sense of, getting their residents in and in through our building.
Yes.
Because when we're busy, our building is small.
Okay.
But there are a couple of groups that come in, and we'll try our best to bring animals to them and to them in the, meaning when they're visiting the shelter, to them at their level in a wheelchair, or if they have some issues with ambulation.
And you had mentioned you have upcoming, how many times a year do you get animals coming in needing adoption?
As Charlie said, we take in the transports from the south about 3 times a month.
So that's often.
It is very
And
often.
how many dogs at a time will you have?
It can vary from when we take from Puerto Rico, they fly in, so there's only about a half dozen.
Okay.
But it can vary up to 2 or 3 dozen dogs on a
Right.
transport. Yeah.
And what is the cost to adopt?
It varies depending on the age of the dog. Puppies like this is $4.25.
Okay.
Adults between 1-year-old and 6 years old are $3.25. And anybody that's 6 years old or more is $1.75.
And are they coming with clean bill of health and the shots that they need?
They're up to date on shots. They have a microchip, and they're all spayed or neutered before they go up for adoption. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, as a summary, what would be the most important information that you'd want people to know about adopting and just having the supports of animals to help them with their own health and well-being, but also for humans to support animals with their health and well-being?
Sure.
I think it's important for people to know that they need to find a good match, that they need to find a dog or a cat that matches their lifestyle, and not just one that looks pretty that they want. It needs to be a dog that's going to fit into their lifestyle well, and they'll get paid back enormously if they find the right dog. Yeah, it's great.
They're very loyal. A dog and a pet, I think, when you take good care of them and you honor and cherish them and really give them your love, they really feel it and they know it, and they give you back 1,000 times more, don't they?
They do. We had a yellow lab that was adopted a little less than a month ago into a family that had 3 kids from 3 years old up to maybe a preteen or an early teenage, and they sent us some photos and a note, and the photos were great. You'd see the little girl sitting on the floor with the dog, flipping through a picture book with her. She was about 3 years old, and the dog was just sitting there listening to her voice. The dog was playing with the older boy that was, maybe in his young teens, getting some exercise. And then they have a girl that's confined to a wheelchair, and the dog was sitting there with his paws up on her lap and her head in her lap, and he had his eyes closed, and he was just loving getting patted. And you could see they both were just
Had
really
a beautiful
calm
bond.
and enjoying it. Yeah,
That's wonderful.
It's very important to have an animal. Yeah.
So the website again is?
hsfn.org.
And as far as a phone number where you said people could call to speak to someone, that would be?
603-889-2275.
And let's do that one more time.
603-889-2275.
So for anyone contemplating having an animal join their family, instead of necessarily going to find an animal at a dog store or one of the best things they could do is to check with you and be able to see what beautiful animals you've been able to save that they could make part of their family, that can love them, and they in turn love them back and develop this very special relationship and bond that they'll have forever.
Absolutely. Agreed.
We greatly appreciate everything that you do. And these three that are here, one is about taking a nap, and the others, they have been so well behaved. And people just need to remember that it's not just puppies that you have animals of all different ages, at different stages, and you have cats, you said, and other interesting beings.
Yes,
and,
rabbits and reptiles too.
Rabbits and reptiles. And so again, the phone number that they can reach you at is
603-889-2275.
And the website?
www.hsfn.org.
Thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Until next time.